The bank called while I was cutting the crusts off my daughter's sandwich, and the woman on the line asked why I had stopped making payments on a loan I never applied for. My name is Lauren Whitaker. I live in a 3-bedroom rental outside Columbus, Ohio. And at 8:12 that Tuesday morning I was standing at the counter with a butter knife in one hand and my phone wedged between my shoulder and ear. My 8-year-old daughter, Chloe, was arguing with the toaster. The caller ID showed a local number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail. "Ms. Whitaker?" the woman said when I answered. "Yes. This is Dana from the Loan Servicing Department at Fifth Third Bank. I'm calling regarding your personal loan ending in 4421. Your January payment hasn't been received, and the account is now past due." I remember wiping peanut butter off my thumb and saying, "I don't have a personal loan with you." There was a pause. I could hear keyboard clicks. Our records show a $28,000 unsecured personal loan opened in September. The funds were disbursed to your checking account at Chase the same day. "I don't bank with Chase," I said. Another pause. "The application lists your social security number ending in 3174 and your date of birth as June 12, 1987. Is that correct?" It was correct. I felt something shift inside my chest. "Can you repeat the account it was deposited into?" She did. It wasn't mine. I packed Chloe's lunch on autopilot after that: turkey sandwich, apple slices in a plastic container, 2 Oreos in a napkin. I walked her to the bus stop, kissed the top of her head, and tried to keep my voice normal when I told her I might be late picking her up from gymnastics. When I got back inside, I called the number on the back of my debit card to check my own accounts. Everything looked normal. No large deposits, no withdrawals I didn't recognize. Then I pulled my credit report through Experian. The loan was there. Opened September 14th. Original balance $28,000. Current balance $26,740. Payment history: 3 on-time payments, October through December. January marked 30 days late. I sat down at the kitchen table and read the trade line 3 times. The listed employer on the loan application was my company, Franklin Medical Billing Services. The listed income was accurate within a few $1,000s. The mailing address was mine, but the bank account used for disbursement and automatic payments was not. I called Fifth Third back and asked to be transferred to fraud. A different voice came on, a man named Eric. I wrote his name down on the back of an envelope. "I need to report this as identity theft," I said. He asked me a series of questions. Had I applied for credit in September? Had I authorized anyone to use my information? Did I recognize the Chase account number ending in 9032? "No," I said each time. He explained the process in a tone that sounded rehearsed but not unkind. They would flag the account as disputed due to fraud. I would need to submit a police report and complete an affidavit. They would investigate. In the meantime, the account could still reflect as delinquent on my credit file until resolved. "How long does that take?" I asked. 30 to 90 days, he said. Sometimes longer. I thought about my lease renewal in May. I thought about the car I'd been planning to refinance. I thought about how a 30-day delinquency could drop my credit score by over 80 points. "Can you tell me where the funds went?" I asked. "The funds were deposited to a Chase account under the name Megan Reynolds," he said. The name hit me like cold water. Megan is my younger sister. For a second I genuinely considered that it was a coincidence. Megan Reynolds is not an uncommon name. But then Eric added, "The application lists a co-applicant as Megan Reynolds. My sister's date of birth is May 3, 1992. I know that without thinking. What's the co-applicant's date of birth?" I asked. He read it. It was May 3, 1992. I don't remember what I said after that. I know I asked for copies of the signed documents. I know I wrote down the case number. I know I thanked him before hanging up. Then I called Megan. She didn't answer. I texted, "Did you take out a loan using my name?" 3 dots appeared almost immediately. "What are you talking about?" I stared at the screen. Fifth Third, $28,000. September. There was a full minute of nothing. Then, "Can we talk later? I'm at work." "No, itipat. We're talking now." She called me. Her voice was tight. "Lauren, calm down. I was going to tell you." "You were going to tell me what?" I asked. My hands were steady, which surprised me. I needed help, she said. It's not what you think. You used my social security number. It was just paperwork, she said quickly. I'm making the payments. You missed January. Silence. I had a slow month, she said. But I've paid 3 months already. See? It's fine. It was not fine. Megan has always been impulsive. She runs a small event planning business that does well in the summer and struggles in winter. She's been late on rent before. She's borrowed money from our parents, from me. I stopped lending to her 2 years ago after she took $2,000 I had set aside for Chloe's summer camp and paid me back in uneven installments over 8 months. How did you even do this? I asked. I didn't forge anything, she said defensively. You signed it. I did not. You sent me your documents when I was applying for that apartment last year, she said. Remember? You emailed me your pay stubs and a copy of your driver's license because they wanted a guarantor. I remembered sending those documents. I had refused to be her guarantor in the end, but I had emailed her the scans. You kept copies, I said. She didn't answer directly. I just needed a cosigner to get approved. They said my credit wasn't strong enough alone. So you made me the primary borrower, I said. It was easier that way, she said. And I'm paying it. You missed a payment. I'll catch up. I closed my eyes and forced myself to speak clearly. You committed fraud. This is identity theft. Don't use that word, she snapped. I'm your sister. That doesn't make it legal. She started crying then, loud and messy. If you report it, they'll press charges. I could go to jail. Do you want that? Over a loan I'm paying? I didn't sign anything, I said. They have a signature. You've signed things for me before, she said. I practiced. The word hung there. You practiced my signature. I repeated. It's not that hard, she said, almost flippant. You do that L with a loop. I felt something inside me go completely still. Email me the login to the Chase account, I said. I can't, she said quickly. It's my business account. So the loan money went into your business account. Yes, but I used it for inventory and deposits. It's not like I bought a car. That doesn't matter. She shifted tactics. Lauren, please. If this hits my record, I'm done. No vendor will work with me. I have weddings booked through June. Just give me 2 weeks. I'll bring the account current and refinance it in my name. That's not how it works, I said. They're already investigating. You called them? Yes. There was a long exhale on the other end. Why would you do that without talking to me first? They called me, I said. About a missed payment on a loan I didn't know existed. She went quiet. By noon, I had driven to the local police station. I brought a printed copy of my credit report and the notes I had scribbled during my calls. The officer at the desk listened, asked for my ID, and gave me a form to complete. Under suspect information, I wrote my sister's name. It felt mechanical, like filling out a change of address form. The officer asked, "Do you want to pursue charges if the investigation confirms she used your identity?" I thought about Megan at 12, hiding in my room when our parents fought. I thought about her at 21, asking to move in with me after a breakup. I thought about Chloe, and what would happen if my credit tanked and I couldn't qualify for a mortgage someday. Yes, I said. He nodded and stamped the report. That afternoon, Fifth Third emailed me copies of the loan documents. I opened the PDF at my kitchen table. There it was. My name typed under borrower. My address. My employer. My social security number. And below a digital signature. Lauren Whitaker. It looked like mine at a glance. The same loop in the L. The same sharp line in the W. But the spacing was wrong. The pressure inconsistent. It was a version of my name drawn by someone who had practiced it. The co-applicant's signature read, Megan Reynolds. She had signed her own name correctly. The disbursement form showed $28,000 deposited into a Chase business checking account under Reynolds Event Company. The routing number was listed. The automatic payments were set up from the same account. 3 payments of $1,120 had been made on time. Then nothing. At 3:47 p.m., Megan texted again. I talked to a lawyer friend. If you withdraw the fraud claim, I can assume the loan. You can't assume a loan that was opened fraudulently, I replied. Yes, I can. We'll say it was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding is forgetting to return a call, not forging my signature. She didn't respond. That evening my mother called. Megan says you're trying to ruin her life, she said without greeting. I'm trying to protect mine, I said. She was desperate, my mother said. You know how slow winter is for her. So she stole my identity. Don't say that, my mother said sharply. Family doesn't steal from family. She did. My mother's voice softened. Can't you work this out privately? It's already reported, I said. The bank flagged it. There was a long silence. Then, if she goes to jail, that's on you. After I hung up, I locked the front door and checked on Chloe. She was asleep with a book open on her chest. I stood there longer than necessary watching her breathe. The next morning, I received a notification from Experian. My credit score had dropped 76 points. I made coffee and opened my laptop. Fifth Third's fraud department had sent an affidavit for me to sign and notarize. It required me to affirm under penalty of perjury that I did not authorize the loan. I printed it, read it twice, and signed my real signature at the bottom. This time, the loop in the L felt heavier. By the end of that week, I had a 3-inch folder labeled Loan Fraud sitting on the corner of my desk. Inside were printed emails, the police report, the credit report with the delinquency circled in red, and the notarized affidavit I had overnight to the bank's fraud department. I also had 6 missed calls from Megan. She started leaving voicemails instead of texts. Lauren, please call me back. I've made the January payment. It's current now. Another. My lawyer says if you cooperate, we can fix this without it becoming a criminal case. And then, Mom won't stop crying. Just talk to me. I did verify one thing. On Friday afternoon, the loan portal showed a payment posted. The account was now marked current, but the 30-day late notation remained on my credit file. Paying it did not erase the fact that it had been late. On Monday, I received a call from a fraud investigator at Fifth Third named Patricia Gomez. She introduced herself slowly, confirmed my identity through security questions, and then said, Ms. Whitaker, I've reviewed your affidavit and the police report. I need to ask you some detailed questions. I closed my office door at work and sat down. Do you have any joint accounts with Megan Reynolds? She asked. No. Have you ever co-signed for her on any financial product? No. Have you ever provided her with copies of your identification documents? Yes, I said. Last year. For a rental application. I ultimately did not sign as guarantor. Did you give her permission to retain those copies? I didn't think to restrict it, I said. But I did not authorize her to use them for credit. She made a note. I could hear typing. Have you ever accessed the loan funds directly or indirectly? She asked. No. Have you benefited from the proceeds in any way? No. Has Megan Reynolds admitted to you that she submitted the application? Yes, I said. She told me she practiced my signature. There was a pause. Do you have that admission in writing? No. It was a phone call. Is your state a one-party consent state for recording? She asked. Yes, I said automatically. I had looked it up over the weekend. Ohio is a one-party consent state. Have you recorded any conversations? She asked. Not yet. Going forward, you may want to document any admissions, she said carefully. We will also request IP address logs from the online application. When the call ended, I felt less like a sister and more like a witness. That evening, Megan showed up at my house without warning. I saw her car pull into the driveway through the front window. Chloe was at the dining table doing math homework. Is Aunt Megan here? She asked when the doorbell rang. Stay here, I said. I opened the door but did not step aside. Megan looked thinner than usual. She was wearing a wool coat and holding a manila envelope. I just want to talk, she said. We can talk here, I said, keeping my body in the doorway. She glanced past me. Is Chloe home? Yes. Her jaw tightened. Can we not do this in front of her? She's not part of this, I said. Say what you came to say. She held up the envelope. I brought bank statements. Proof I made the payments. That doesn't change what you did. I'm trying to fix it, she said. Look, I've already talked to a lender about refinancing it solely in my name. If you sign a statement saying you intended to co-borrow but didn't understand the structure, they can rewrite it. That would be a false statement, I said. It's not false, she insisted. You were willing to help me. You just didn't know the details. I was not willing to take out a $28,000 loan. She lowered her voice. If this goes through as fraud, it's a felony. Do you understand that? Yes. You're really going to testify against me? If it comes to that. She stared at me like I was someone she didn't recognize. I helped you when you left, Mark, she said suddenly. You lived with me for 3 months. I paid you rent. Not full rent, she shot back. I covered utilities. And I never forged your signature, I said. For a second, I thought she might push past me. Instead, she shoved the envelope into my hands. Just read it, she said. You'll see I'm not some criminal. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table and opened the envelope. Inside were printed Chase statements from Reynolds Event Company for September through January. On September 14th, there was a deposit, $28,000. Over the next 3 months, there were payments to various vendors, caterers, rental companies, florists. There were also transfers to Megan's personal checking account labeled Owner Draw, totaling $6,500. The loan payments of $1,120 appeared in October, November, and December. January showed no loan payment until the day after I confronted her. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was working capital. The next development came from an unexpected place. On Wednesday, Patricia from the bank called again. We obtained the IP logs from the application, she said. The loan was submitted from an IP address associated with a residential internet account in your sister's name. I wrote that down. In addition, she continued, the email address used on the application was megan.reynolds.events@gmail.com. Mail to megan.reynolds.events@gmail.com. However, the borrower contact email was listed as lauren.whitaker.billing@gmail.com. Mail to lauren.whitaker.billing@gmail.com. Is that your email? Yes, I said. But I never received any loan documents. She entered an alternate mailing address for document delivery, Patricia said. It was listed as a P.O. box in Westerville. Megan had a P.O. box for her business. She also uploaded a copy of your driver's license and a pay stub, Patricia said. The metadata shows the files were scanned from a device registered to her business. There it was. A paper trail that didn't rely on my word against hers. What happens next? I asked. Our fraud review committee will determine whether to close the account as fraudulent and charge off the balance, she said. We may also refer the matter to our internal security and to the prosecutor's office. I thanked her and hung up. That night, my father called. He rarely involved himself in conflict. I hear things have escalated, he said. She forged my signature on a $28,000 loan, I said. I'm not defending that, he said quickly. But criminal charges? That follows her forever. So does a delinquent loan on my credit, I said. He was quiet. Is there any way to settle it civilly? The bank doesn't treat identity theft as a civil misunderstanding, I said. They treat it as fraud. He exhaled. Your mother says you're being cold. I'm being precise, I said. Over the next 2 weeks, I documented everything. I saved screenshots of the credit report before and after the delinquency. I kept a log of every call, every voicemail, every in-person visit. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. I placed a fraud alert on my file. I changed the passwords to every financial account I had and enabled 2-factor authentication. Megan alternated between apology and accusation. I was desperate, she texted one night at 11:03 p.m. You don't know what it's like to have vendors threatening to cancel weddings. I do know what it's like to have my identity stolen, I replied. Another time. If you'd just co-signed properly, none of this would have happened. I didn't want to co-sign. I wrote back. You're selfish. I stopped responding after that. In early March, I received a certified letter from Fifth Third. I signed for it at the post office counter. The letter stated that, after investigation, the bank had determined the loan account ending in 4421 was opened using my personal information without my authorization. The account would be closed as fraud. The balance would not be my responsibility. The bank would notify the credit bureaus to remove the trade line from my credit report. I read that paragraph 3 times. 2 days later, the loan disappeared from Experian. A week after that, my credit score rebounded to within 12 points of where it had been before. Relief felt practical, not emotional. It meant I could refinance my car if I needed to. It meant my lease renewal wouldn't be flagged. But it wasn't over. A detective from the county prosecutor's office called to schedule an interview. Because the bank had sustained a financial loss, $26,740 plus interest, they were pursuing charges. "Are you willing to cooperate?" he asked. "Yes," I said. I met him in a small conference room at the courthouse. He recorded the interview. I described the phone call from the bank, Megan's admissions, the documents I had sent her the previous year. I provided copies of the texts where she acknowledged taking out the loan. He showed me a printed copy of the application with the IP address logs attached. "This is strong evidence," he said, "combined with your affidavit and the bank's findings. What's the likely charge?" I asked. "Identity fraud and forgery," he said. "Potentially telecommunications fraud, because it was submitted online." "What's the penalty?" "It depends on the amount involved and prior record," he said. "It's a 4th-degree felony at this level." I drove home in silence after that meeting. 3 days later, Megan was arrested at her apartment. I didn't see it happen. I found out because my mother called again, this time sobbing. "They took her in handcuffs," she said, in front of her neighbors. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. I was sorry it had come to that. I was not sorry I reported it. "She says you set her up," my mother said. "She set herself up," I replied. Bail was posted the next day. Megan texted me once from an unknown number. "I hope you're happy." I didn't respond. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for April. I received a subpoena to appear. The paper was formal, impersonal, stamped with the county seal. On the morning of the hearing, I dropped Chloe at school and drove downtown alone. I wore a navy blazer and carried my folder. Megan was sitting at the defense table when I walked in. She looked smaller somehow. Her lawyer leaned close, whispering. When she saw me, she didn't wave. I took the stand when called. I answered questions clearly. Yes, I did not authorize the loan. Yes, I recognized the signature as an imitation. Yes, my sister admitted to practicing it. Her lawyer cross-examined me. "Ms. Whitaker, isn't it true you previously provided financial assistance to your sister?" "Yes." "Isn't it true you once considered co-signing for her?" "I considered it and declined." "So you were aware she needed financial help?" "Yes." "Is it possible there was a misunderstanding about your willingness to assist?" "No." "Did you ever tell her, 'I'll help you however I can'?" "I may have said that in general," I said. "Not in the context of authorizing a loan." He shifted tactics. "You're aware that if she's convicted, this could impact her ability to run her business?" "Yes." "And you're willing to let that happen?" "I didn't cause this," I said. "I reported what happened." The judge found probable cause and bound the case over to the grand jury. Outside the courtroom, Megan approached me despite her lawyer's attempt to stop her. "You didn't have to go that far," she said quietly. "I didn't go far," I said. "You did." She shook her head. "I thought you'd protect me." "I'm protecting my daughter," I said. That was the first time I said it out loud. And it was true. The plea offer came 2 months later. The prosecutor called to inform me that Megan's attorney had requested a diversion program in exchange for restitution and a guilty plea to a reduced charge. She would plead to a 5th-degree felony, he said. She would pay restitution to the bank and complete probation. If successful, she could later apply to have the record sealed. "Does that remove it from my record completely?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "The loan is already removed. This would resolve the criminal case." I asked for a day to think about it. That evening, Megan called from her lawyer's office. "I'm taking the plea," she said before I could speak. "I can't risk trial." "Okay," I said. I'll pay them back, she said. Every cent. I hope you do. She was quiet. Do you ever think maybe you could have just trusted me to fix it? No, I said honestly. Because you didn't tell me in the first place. There was nothing else to say. She accepted the plea 2 weeks later. The judge ordered restitution to the bank, 2 years of supervised probation, and a prohibition on accessing or using anyone else's personal identifying information. When it was over, I went back to my car and sat for a minute before starting the engine. The practical consequences were clear. My credit was restored, the fraudulent loan erased, the legal case resolved. The personal consequences were less tidy. My mother stopped calling for a while. Family gatherings became smaller and separate. Megan and I did not speak beyond necessary logistics for holidays. But every month when I log into my credit monitoring app and see no unfamiliar accounts, I remember that morning in the kitchen, the peanut butter knife, the phone against my ear, the calm voice saying I had a loan I signed. I did not sign it. And I will never ignore a bank call again. The court required Megan to begin restitution payments within 30 days of sentencing. I received a formal notice from the prosecutor's office outlining the schedule. $1,200 per month to the bank until the full balance, including fees, was satisfied. The payments would not come to me. The bank was the victim of record for the financial loss. I was listed separately as the victim of identity fraud. I kept that distinction clear in my head. It mattered. In June, I applied to refinance my car loan, something I had postponed during the investigation. I brought printed copies of my updated credit reports to the credit union, along with the letter from Fifth Third confirming the fraudulent account had been closed and removed. The loan officer, a woman named Karen, reviewed my file and nodded. "Your score rebounded nicely," she said. "Whatever happened earlier this year appears resolved." "It was identity theft," I said plainly. She didn't ask for details. She approved the refinance at a lower interest rate than I had before. I signed the paperwork carefully, paying attention to every line, every signature field. I no longer skimmed documents. At home, I installed a small fireproof safe in my bedroom closet. I placed my Social Security card, Chloe's birth certificate, my passport, and the remaining copies of old tax returns inside. I shredded any document with personal information before discarding it. I set calendar reminders to review my credit every 3 months. These were systems, not emotions. In July, Megan missed her first restitution payment. I found out because the prosecutor's office sent me a courtesy notice. Defendant has failed to make scheduled payment for June. It read, "Probation officer notified." I did not call her. I did not call my parents. I let the process work. 2 weeks later, the payment posted. In August, Chloe asked why we didn't see Aunt Megan anymore. "She made a serious mistake," I said carefully. "And sometimes when adults make serious mistakes, there are consequences." "Like timeout?" she asked. "In a way," I said. "But bigger." "Did she lie?" Chloe asked. "Yes." Chloe considered that. "You always say lying makes things worse." "It does," I said. That was the level of explanation she needed. In September, almost exactly 1 year after the loan had been opened in my name, I received a final letter from Fifth Third's recovery department. It confirmed that the account balance was being reduced through court-ordered restitution, and that I had no further obligations related to the account. I filed it behind the original fraud letter. Around that same time, Megan sent me a single email. Not a text. An email. Subject: "I owe you more than money." I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. The message was longer than anything she had written before. She admitted she had been denied a business line of credit in late August last year because her score was too low. She admitted she panicked when 2 large weddings required upfront deposits for venues. She admitted she used the copies of my documents she had saved and completed the online application late at night from her apartment. "I told myself I would pay it back before you ever knew," she wrote. "I didn't think about what would happen if I miss one payment. I didn't think about how it would feel for you to get that call." She said she had started therapy as part of probation requirements. She said she was learning about impulse control and entitlement. She did not ask me to withdraw anything. She did not ask me to change my statement. She simply said she was sorry. I did not respond immediately. 3 days later, I wrote back. I accept that you're sorry. That doesn't mean things go back to how they were. I need time. If we ever rebuild anything, it will be slow and based on actions, not promises. I kept it factual. No accusations. No comfort. We did not meet in person for months after that. At Thanksgiving, my parents hosted 2 separate dinners. Megan came at noon. Chloe and I came at 4. My mother tried to smooth it over by saying it was just scheduling. No one argued. In December, Megan made all her restitution payments on time. In January, she requested permission through her probation officer to attend one of Chloe's school choir performances. The officer contacted me to ask if I objected. I considered it. She can attend, I said, but we won't sit together. At the performance, she sat 3 rows behind us. When Chloe waved at her from the stage, I did not stop her. Megan clapped like any other aunt. Afterward, we exchanged a brief, neutral greeting in the hallway. "Thank you for letting me come," she said. "I didn't stop you," I replied. That was the extent of it. Over time, the practical aftermath became less visible. The fraud alert expired after 1 year, and I renewed it. The credit freeze stayed in place unless I temporarily lifted it for a specific application. My passwords remained complex and unique. I never again emailed copies of my identification to anyone without watermarking them and limiting their use in writing. At work, I found myself double-checking client authorization forms more carefully. I work in medical billing. We handle insurance information, social security numbers, payment plans. I implemented a new internal checklist for verifying signatures on patient financial agreements. No one at my office knew why I was so particular. I didn't tell them. In March of the following year, Megan completed half of her probation term without violations. Her probation officer informed me she was compliant. Restitution was current. I received one more call from the prosecutor's office asking whether I would object to her early termination of probation if she continued to comply. "I won't object if she fulfills all financial obligations," I said. "But I want restitution paid in full first." "That's reasonable," the prosecutor said. By late summer, she had paid off the remaining balance. The bank issued a satisfaction of restitution notice. The criminal case was closed. A few weeks later, Megan sent another email. "I finished," she wrote. "Restitution is paid. Probation is terminated. I'm not asking for anything. Just letting you know." I replied with a single line. "I received the notice." That was enough. It has been 3 years now since the morning the bank called. Chloe is 11. She doesn't remember the details, only that there was a time when grown-up stuff was complicated. My credit reports are clean. I check them regularly, not obsessively but consistently. I keep a locked file for sensitive documents. I do not co-sign loans. I do not share my social security number casually. I do not assume that family means safe. Megan and I speak occasionally. Short conversations at birthdays. Neutral updates about work. She rebuilt her business slowly without borrowed shortcuts. She never again asked me for financial help. We have not returned to the version of ourselves we were before September 14th. Maybe we never will. Trust, once converted into paperwork and evidence exhibits, doesn't revert to what it was. Sometimes I replay that first call in my head. The tone of the bank representative. The specific phrase. "The loan you signed." What unsettled me most wasn't the amount. It was the presumption embedded in that sentence, that a signature equaled consent, that my name on a line meant I had chosen something. I learned that morning that a signature can be copied, a social security number can be typed by someone else, and a loan can exist in your name without your knowledge. But I also learned something practical and unambiguous: you can correct it. You can document. You can report. You can insist on a paper trail. You can separate love from liability. When I pack Chloe's lunch now, I still sometimes glance at my phone when it rings from an unknown number. I answer more of those calls than I used to. I listen carefully. I write things down. Because the day I almost ignored that call is the day I might have let a fraud grow quietly in my name. And that is one mistake I did not make. There was one final administrative step that closed the loop in a way nothing else had. 6 months after Megan completed probation, I received a notice from the credit bureaus confirming that the fraud alert I had maintained for 3 consecutive years would expire unless renewed. I sat at my desk after work and read the letter carefully. The instructions were straightforward. Renew for another year, or allow it to lapse. For the first time since the loan, I hesitated. Not because I trusted more. Because I wanted to understand whether the systems I had put in place were habit or fear. I logged into each bureau, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and reviewed my files line by line. Open accounts, closed accounts, hard inquiries, soft inquiries, address history, employment history. There were no discrepancies. I pulled my banking history for the past 12 months and scanned for irregularities. Nothing unfamiliar. I checked my IRS account transcript to ensure no fraudulent tax filings had been submitted. Clean. Then I renewed the fraud alert anyway. Not out of panic. Out of policy. Around that time, I received a formal letter from the county clerk notifying me that Megan had filed a petition to seal her record, as permitted after successful completion of probation and restitution. The letter stated that as the named victim of identity fraud, I had the right to object. I read it twice. Objecting would not undo what happened. It would not restore trust faster. It would not change the fact that she had already paid restitution and complied with the court. It would only determine whether the conviction remained publicly accessible. I called the prosecutor's office to clarify the implications. If the record is sealed, it's not visible in standard background checks, the assistant prosecutor explained. Law enforcement and certain licensing boards may still access it. It doesn't erase the conviction. It limits public visibility. Has she had any violations? I asked. No, she said. She completed everything without incident. I thought about the practical purpose of the criminal process. It had established accountability. It had resulted in restitution. It had formally acknowledged that what happened was not a misunderstanding. I did not file an objection. A month later, the court granted the sealing petition. Megan sent a brief message afterward. The record is sealed. I know that doesn't change anything for you. I'm still sorry. I replied, I know. That was all. Over time, our interactions became less charged. Not warm. Not intimate. But functional. At a family barbecue one summer afternoon, she approached me while Chloe was playing in the yard. I brought copies of my credit reports, she said quietly, almost awkwardly. My therapist suggested transparency. I looked at her, unsure what she expected. I'm not asking you to review them, she clarified quickly. I just want you to know I check them every month now. That's good, I said. I don't want to ever put myself or you in that position again. I nodded. Then don't. We stood there for a few seconds, not reconciled but not hostile. The reality is that the legal case ended long before the personal consequences did. The practical damage was measurable. A temporary credit score drop, administrative hours, legal proceedings. The relational damage was harder to quantify. I no longer share sensitive documents casually, even with family. If someone asks for a copy of my ID for a legitimate purpose, I write across it in bold letters. For specific purpose. Only. I send it through secure transfer when possible. I do not leave paperwork unattended. When Chloe turned 10, I froze her credit as a preventive measure. Children are common targets for identity theft because their credit files are rarely monitored. The process took less than an hour with each bureau. I documented the pins in my safe. These actions are not dramatic. They are procedural. A few months ago, I received another call from an unfamiliar number while packing lunch, different sandwich, same kitchen counter. I answered. Ms. Whitaker, this is Capital One calling about a recent credit inquiry. My body reacted for half a second before my mind caught up. Yes, I said evenly. I applied for a new card yesterday. She verified a few details and confirmed the application. The call lasted less than 2 minutes. Afterward, I stood there holding the phone and realized something subtle had shifted. The spike of fear that used to accompany unknown financial communication was gone. In its place was assessment. Is this legitimate? Do the facts match my actions? Is there documentation? Yes. No. Proceed accordingly. Megan and I will never have the kind of relationship where we exchange financial favors or sign documents for each other. That boundary is permanent. But we have developed a different kind of clarity. Last winter, she asked if I would attend a workshop she was hosting for small business owners on financial compliance and ethical practices. I considered declining on principle. Instead, I went. She spoke openly about cash flow management, about not leveraging personal relationships for business credit, about the long-term cost of shortcuts. She did not tell the audience about the felony charge. She did not mention my name, but I recognized the subtext. Afterward, she approached me. "I mean it when I say I won't ever do something like that again," she said. "I believe you understand the consequences now," I replied. Belief is not the same as trust, but it is something. If there is a single conclusion to what happened, it is this: identity theft does not require a stranger in a dark room. It can come from someone who knows your middle name, your birthday, the way you form your signature. The legal system treats both the same way when evidence is clear. The morning I was packing Chloe's lunch and the bank called about the loan I signed, I had a choice. Minimize it. Handle it quietly. Protect my sister from consequences. Instead, I chose documentation over denial. 3 years later, my credit is intact. My daughter's future financial applications will not be shadowed by a delinquent account opened in my name. My sister has a criminal record that was sealed but not erased from memory. And I have a file in a fireproof safe labeled simply, September. I keep it not because I expect a repeat, but because it represents a line I will not let anyone cross again, no matter their last name.